everyone, Daisy here with a quick intro to this new series that I am doing with Christy from Christy's Beautiful Life called Love Your Scraps. And I just wanted to show you quick my scraps. So I save a lot of stuff, and I recently went through all of my scraps because they were getting out of control and I wasn't able to really utilize them the way I had them. So I have one of these iris containers. It's the 17 by 15 by 6 inch one, so one of the big ones. And in here I have all of my scraps, and I recently, like I said, went through them and I sorted them kind of by size. I got rid of anything that was too small unless it was one of my favorite papers. If it was one of my favorites, then I kept it anyway. But yeah, so I sorted it by size. I don't sort them by color because I like to go through, if you've watched any of my scrap videos in the past, I've explained kind of my technique or whatever of going through. I kind of squint my eyes and go through and pick the colors that go well together, and then usually I can make the patterns work as long as the colors match. Oh, I actually need more of this one, so perfect. So anyway, this is kind of my pattern paper scraps only. I do have two categories though. So this is pattern paper in that big one, and then I have just one of these regular, this is the 14 by 14 by 3 inch iris containers, and this one has basically what I consider my cut aparts. So anything like, these banner strips, the 3x4 cards, flowers that I have been fussy cutting, anything that I think I'm going to fussy cut out instead of using it as like a big piece of paper is in this bin. And that just makes it easier because sometimes I have this weird ability to remember that I have, something specific. Like I'll remember I have this cut apart card, and then it's a matter of digging through my scrap bin. Well, now if I have it separate, I should be able to find it quicker. So I, have all of these things, put them all in here. They're not sorted in any way, shape, or form. So that is how I store these scraps. And then I have two more categories. So I also use a lot of cardstock, and so I end up with a lot of cardstock scraps. So I have this purple bin, which is just one of the regular size iris containers that has all of like my colored cardstock. I try not to save anything smaller than like a 4x6 size because I don't need to, right? I can just cut into one of these scraps and get something smaller if I need it. So I try not to save anything smaller, but this is all my colored cardstock. And then this one is one that I actually have been reaching for frequently since I sorted it this way. So this is, I have white paper scraps, and I use these for backing photos as well as stamping on and that sort of thing. Sometimes if I need to make a list, I will pull out one of these scraps. It also has my vellum and parchment paper scraps in here. And I do sort of have them sorted out. But so like vellum's on the top, vellum and parchment paper is on the top, then the white scraps, and then black cardstock scraps because I use these often to back photos and for other little things. And then behind that I have like my specialty paper, so any glitter paper, mirror cardstock, iridescent paper, all of that hangs out back here because a lot of times like I'll use it to like with a punch, like here, you see here, I punch out a bunch of stars or hearts or something, and I'll use those on my layouts, and that way I know where these scraps are specifically, because a lot of times, you know, you don't use a full sheet of those glitter papers and things. You use smaller pieces of it, and so I just find it handy to have them kind of separated. So that was kind of the quick overview of my scraps and how I store them and everything. I do change the way I store it quite frequently. I don't know. I find that it keeps it fresh in my mind, and I just keep trying things until I find one that works. So I pulled out a bunch of different colors here. I'm going to be making a boy layout, and oh, come on. This is going to be of my son cooking, and so I pulled out, I kind of started with this paper, and this is an October afternoon paper from 2011 called Tumbleweeds, and I am planning on using probably more of this side, but I might use some of this side too. I wanted to do some blues and greens together, and I have this idea for using some strips to kind of create what's going to end up being a very busy background. So I just pulled out a bunch of blues that went together, a couple of greens, a gray. I really need to use this. This is from Gossamer Blue. This is the last piece of this paper. It's on my desk. The Stargazer is called the paper, and I love this paper. It's the last little strip I have, so I want to use that up. But yeah, I just pulled out a lot of things that kind of matched my colors and that I thought would work. And so I'm going to put you on fast forward now and get started on my layout. Okay, so off screen I cut these bigger pieces of paper that I pulled out down, and I am going to put them in the corners as you see me doing here. I'm leaving a small border. I'm using a piece of white cardstock, and then I'm leaving a small border around the outside edge. And just kind of, I don't know, creating this shape. I had this in my head and thought that it would work out really well. So it's kind of like a diamond shape. And trying to line these up because I want my border to be pretty even all the way around. And then I cut like 1-inch strips out of all of the papers I thought I would use, and then I'm just going to adhere them around, and I'm tucking them under because I don't want like weird overlap on them. I'm trying to trim them down where I can so that they don't stick out the edges, and then just popping them underneath there. I kind of played around with a little bit of pre-planning of where I was going to put these papers just so that I could mix the colors up a little bit, and because I didn't have really long strips of some of these papers, I had to kind of plan a little bit ahead. It took me like a good 25 minutes to figure out which papers would fit where, so I did cut that little bit of pre-planning out of my video just because it would have, I mean, this is already a 20-minute video, so but you kind of get the gist of what it was. I didn't tuck anything underneath or anything. I just very crudely laid everything out to see where I could fit them and to make sure that I didn't have like the same colors stacked on top of each other and that sort of thing. And so yeah, just using my HEG and sticking this down, and I'm just keep going with this diagonal pattern. So I did cut this bow strip too short, so then I have to go find my yeah, that scrap piece that I cut it off of and cut a little bit longer of a piece. And I should have adhered, so that blue rectangle is supposed to be in the center, and I should have adhered that down before these gray pieces, and yeah, didn't think that through all the way. So this is my favorite piece of paper that I was telling you about, and so I'm getting it on here, and I actually cover most of it up, which was disappointing, but I do have that little tiny strip. It's like a 6 by 1 inch strip that I'm saving because I love that paper. So see, I'm struggling hardcore with that. I thought I could just slide it under, and I'm like, wait a minute, why did I do that to myself? So anyway, that's my background. I really like the way it looks. I like the different layers of colors and everything. It does look a little crazy and a little busy, but I'm totally okay with that. And so I have these 2 photos, and I'm going to be using 2 4x6 photos again. That's kind of one of my goals. So I have a lot of goals coming up in the next few months, but for August I'm trying to use larger photos or multiple photos on a layout. So the pictures are of my son, and he's my oldest, and he recently discovered a YouTuber who cooks and really enjoys watching his videos, and so he decided to start cooking. And so this particular day, I can't remember what he was making, but our So our light, we have in our kitchen, we have a fluorescent light, and it requires these odd shaped bulbs, and we haven't been able to find them. So sometimes the light won't turn on because they're getting old, and you know fluorescent, how sometimes it'll turn on, sometimes it won't. Well, we're kind of on the more of the sometimes it won't part of that stage. And so it wouldn't turn on this day, and so he was cooking in the dark, so I went and got him our camping lantern. So yeah, you know, setting him up for success. But the food ended up tasting really good. He's made a few things now, and he's actually a really good cook. And yeah, he does pick some pretty intricate recipes though, but I mean, I give him kudos for trying these things out. He made, like, I can't remember what the dish is called, but you basically cook your eggs inside of like spaghetti sauce or something, and yeah, it was really good. And he's made a pasta dish, and I think one other thing that I can't remember now, but yeah. So anyhow, I rated my random cut apart die cut box. I did not show you this box. This is a completely different box where I just kind of throw all of the little things that, you know, like if I started cutting apart a cut apart sheet and I've got like 2 things left over, it goes into this little container, and then I flip through it every now and then. And so there's a lot of like crepe paper. Is it the Cool Boy, or it's an older collection. It's one of my favorites, Boys Rule collection. So all of those colors went really well, like the greens, and I find that they're hard to use because they have cream color backgrounds, but because I used October Afternoon, I used a lot of cream in this layout anyway, so just adding those things around. And then also I had these stars that are parchment, or not parchment paper, are craft cardstock, and they were left over from like the offcut of a cut file, and so I had a lot of those, so I thought that they went really well with this layout. And so I added a few of those around, just adding some foam behind my photos to add a little bit of dimension. And really I just rated that box and pulled out anything that was blue and green and I thought would look nice, and so just kind of added them. And then I wanted to create another little cluster up at the top, and I almost forgot my title. So I forgot my title on my last layout. I remembered it before I took my final photos, but I completely spaced it. And I think I have another layout coming up that I almost forgot to put my title on, which is whatever. I don't know why. I think because I have been trying to pre-plan my layouts a little bit more because I have a lot going on over the next few months. And because I write the titles down, I feel like I'm forgetting to put them on the page. But anyhow, I pulled out a bunch of different thickers that were blue or green, and I'm using these ones. These I'm pretty sure were from the Indigo and Ivy collection, and then I have these October Afternoons, I think they're called Sticky Keys, and then these are from Chamel, and my title's going to be What's Cookin' Good Lookin'. And these are some from Paige Evans, the tiny foam thickers. And just straightening those out. And then adding the apostrophes. And then I add a question mark, but now I don't know if the question mark's in the right spot. I think it is. And I think I just need like a comma, but I don't know. It didn't look grammatically correct to me, but I left it anyway. So now I pulled out a whole bunch of sequins. I think these ones are Ocean of Color, and I'm pulling out the like bright navy blue ones. And then I have one that's called like Smoothie Mix, I think, and I'm going to pull out some, they're kind of a teal blue. And then I pull out from the Signs of Spring mix some greens. And I have one more there. Oh, the Oops-a-Daisy. I don't think I use anything out of the Oops-a-Daisy. I'm also pulling some white one, or no, some, there's like some iridescent squares that kind of fade from green and to blue, and so I'm using those, and then I'm adding a few white sequins around, and then that's pretty much it. So if you haven't already, hop on over and check out what Christy created. I'm super excited to see what she creates with her scraps, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!